Hello, I'm going to tell you the story that I wrote for the last assessment task. So I hope that you enjoy it. Well, when I was 12, during the summer nights, I used to go for running through the neighborhood because it wasn't too hot at that time of the day. I loved doing this kind of activity because I could clear my head. I could think about some argument or problems that I had had during the days. But there was a problem. My mother. My mother didn't like me to do this activity at night. In fact, didn't like me to do many things. So she was always telling me off or giving me advices. She used to tell me that the neighborhood had become dangerous, or there were drunkards, thieves, wander around, or hangouts in some corners. Um, I thought that she was exaggerating. She was saying silly things, and once uh, before before I went out for running, she she gave me again an advice, the same advice. So I was so tired of hearing these kind of things, and I got angry. I shouted to her. I shouted angrily, "Shut up! You are exaggerating. You are saying silly things." But what I never thought that what I never thought that night would something will happen to me that made me change the way I treat her. I went outside and started to run through the neighborhood. I enjoyed running through this area because of the great atmosphere that I could feel. There were families drinking mate. There were dogs playing with other dogs. There were children playing in the street. Um, there were lights illuminating the green grass on the tall trees which were in the both sides of the street. All of this makes an atmosphere full of life and joy. But that night was completely different. Uh, there, uh, there were no families drinking mate. There were no dogs barking and playing with our dogs. There were no children playing in the street. The lights were turned off, making the tree and the grass as if looked as if they were covering the street into the sheer darkness. Um, I continue running. I don't pay much attention to this unpleasant atmosphere because of that night was a murky atmosphere. Then I heard shouting that came from 2 blocks far from where I was. Shouting came from a group of men that I could barely see. I suspected that they were that they were thieves because of the way that they were dressed. They were dressed in black clothes, and some of them had their face covered by handkerchiefs like this. And I started to feel nervous because the danger was getting closer. Instead of changing the road, I continued running through the same street because I didn't want to accept what my mother had told me were actually right. I felt so scared that I couldn't think about anything else than those men and what would happen to me if they were really thieves. I started to ask questions to myself. Are they going to rob me? Should I have listened to my mother's advice? Why I'm getting closer, nearer to them? I tried to look at into their faces. Then I realized that they were older than me. In fact, they were as tall as basketball player, as and as strong as rugby players. The tensions of the moment went increasing each step I took, especially when they looked at me. Three of the men came fast towards me with a malicious look. One of them caught my left arm in order to I couldn't escape. But actually I couldn't move, I couldn't cry for help since fear had taken control of my body. Suddenly a chill went through my back to my head, and my hands were shaking. The situation was getting worse because the man not only had held my left arm, but also he had held my right arm, while other men came to and started to untie my trainings. Then I could control my body, so I started move strongly my legs and my arms in order to release me, but I couldn't do it. I was getting tired. But I couldn't do it. I insisted on moving my legs because I didn't want to let them to steal easily my trainings. But I was getting tired. The anguish and desperation makes me cry, so I gave up all my efforts. I, I, I thought that they would succeed with the theft, but in that moment, a light of hope appeared. Men appeared in the street where the thieves were attacking me. They saw the policeman, so immediately he started to untie my trainings as fast as possible. I thought that they would succeed with the robbery, but the policemen started to run to the place where the men and I were. I could see in the men's eyes that they were surprised by the speed of the policeman. He was in his early 30s and he was well built. That's why he could run so fast. When he was just in front of us, he took off his gun and shouted, "Hey, leave the little boy alone!" And the thieves started to run and disappeared into the darkness. The policeman let them escape because he was worried about my well-being. He asked my name and where I lived. He took me to my home where my mother was waiting for me. My mother she went out of the house, and I with tears in my eyes explained all what had happened. She looked at the policeman and I thanked him, and then with angrily he said to me, "I have to talk to you." When my mother and I got inside of the house, she told me off. She said with irritated voice that she was worried because of me, and she reminded me all the things that she had said to me before. But this time was different because I heard all the things that she wanted to say. Then I cried and recognized that I was wrong. I should have done what she wanted. After all, I didn't want to suffer again an awful situation. Um, I felt so sorry after that. I felt so sorry that I needed to go to my bed to think about all the things that had happened. After that night, my relationship between my mother and I changed completely. I treat her with delicacy. I never I've never showed her again, and particularly I listened what she wants to say because she loves me, and she always wants the best for me. That's all the story, and I hope that you enjoy it, and thanks for listening.